Hi there, here viewers of Equinoxe television, 6 p.m. by 6 o'clock. It's time for the news in the English language. We thank you so much for joining us. Our major stories right away. Have you ever heard of the BBL or the Brazilian boot lift before? It is a common practice of plastic surgery demanded mostly by ladies in the Western world, but it is gradually gaining ground in Cameroon lately. Medical doctors, however, warn that the BBL comes with devastating side or after effects. We spoke with some plastic surgeons here in the city of Douala, and we'll be telling you more about what they say about the BBL in this edition of the news. And also we will be talking about a 79-year-old man who allegedly shot his wife to death over allegations of infidelity in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. And on our back-to-school package today, we take you to discover the business of second-hand book vending few days to back to school. Viewers, those are our major stories. Stay with us for details and more. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for always being with us for the news in the English language and Equinoxe television. I am Anna Bilaleke, and to begin right away with our back-to-school package, vendors of second-hand textbooks are expressing concerns about poor sales. According to them, they come and go back home without being able to sell even a single book. They blame their poor sales on the unscrupulous activities of some teachers who impose textbooks on their pupils or students. Immaculate Fogwe tells us more.
In Cameroon, the sale of used textbooks has become a major source of income for a lot of people. The books, which are courteously displayed on tables, are gotten from different sources, including former students who no longer need the books, and also lecturers who need to get rid of their old books in order to create space for newer ones. Talking to a vendor in Dedo, right here in the city of Douala, he says business is very slow.
In fact, we used to sell textbooks from July, but see, this time around, are you seeing people in front of us? Nothing. To show that the time is extremely difficult. There are teachers that used to produce some books inside the schools. You understand? When they produce the books, when the parents come and buy books from us, they carry the books to school. The teachers will condemn the books that they don't want the books. They only want to sell the ones that they themselves are fabricating.
He goes further to outline some other challenges they are facing while they go about this activity.
The Urban Council, they always disturb us. Like you can even see, we have textbooks that we put now in magazines. But before we used to put them here. You understand? We used to put them here, but now we put them in magazines. Then we displace some books that are not really valuable, because they always come here and carry our books and go. What are we going to sell? We don't even have money to go and rent stores that we can put that can accommodate our textbooks. You see, we are in difficulties.
According to the few buyers we met, they prefer buying these textbooks because they are cheaper. They equally claim these vendors offer them varieties compared to bookshops. Textbooks are essential tools for teaching and learning.
And now we talk something else. The senior divisional officer for the Vuri Division, Benjamin Butu, has warned the local population against the illegal occupation of state-owned property or state-owned lands. Benjamin Butu was speaking during a visit to some of those state-owned property in the neighborhood of Yassa in the Douala 3 subdivision. Our reporter Lucy Liengu Asia was with the SDO. She now compiled this report for the news.
In line with the measures put in place by the government to curb the illegal occupation of public lands in Cameroon, authorities of the littoral region have also been working tirelessly to ensure that people do not violate the laws of the country. It is on this note that the senior divisional officer Ruri, Benjamin Butu, and land survey experts visited some sites in the Yassa neighborhood wherein some individuals have settled illegally.
The state have his lands and he can dispose when he wants. And it's not better that the people can install in the lands of state without authorizations or permissions. It is why we have to make the verifications, because we want to assure that those who occupy these lands in the very good desire.
Most lands which were allocated by the state are now used by unscrupulous persons for their businesses. The senior divisional officer says sanctions await all those who infringe the law.
We have to withdraw these lands because the state cannot like that. We can occupy the land without to pay something or authorization. And if you occupy it without permission, we have to reclaim these lands in the lands of the state. And the people who occupy this land have to go away.
In the Wuri division, about 155 land titles are still being investigated.
In the Wuri divisions, states have what we call certificates of lands, about 155 certificates of lands. And we have to verify that to assure that these lands are occupied in the normally.
And those who occupy state-owned lands have been reminded that they can be asked to leave at any time, so they ought to respect the laws of the country.
And the hike in the prices of goods and services in Cameroon has been identified as inflation, partly caused by a high liquidity in the Central African Economic Community sub-region CEMAC. This has been identified by the Central Bank of the sub-region, or the Central Bank of the region, BEAC, which has chosen the liquidity absorption policy as a solution to the disturbing inflation rate in the CEMAC region. The operation aims to absorb about 400 billion francs CFA of liquidity from the banking circuit, as Fomi and Sander tells us in the report which comes up next.
Keeping up its liquidity absorption operations, which now consists in making a recovery offer of CFA 2 billion every week, BEAC intends to further tighten access to bank credit in the CEMAC sub-region. This restrictive monetary policy, suspension of liquidity injection operations, intensification of liquidity absorption operations, and multiple increments of the central bank key rate aims at curbing rampant inflation, according to the central bank, BEAC. The intensification of liquidity absorption comes as no surprise. It is important to note that at the second session of its Monetary Policy Committee (MPC) held on June 26, 2023, Abbas Muhammad Toli, governor of BEAC, clearly envisaged this hypothesis to curb inflation projected at 6.1% in 2023, twice the tolerance threshold of 3% accepted in the CEMAC sub-region, due to the international situation marked in particular by the persistence of the war between Russia and Ukraine. As Abbas Toli Muhammad explained during the press conference that marked the CPMP meeting of June 26, 2023, despite the tightening of monetary policies in recent months, interbank transactions in the CEMAC sub-region have increased. In other words, as the conditions to get financing from the central bank were getting more restrictive, commercial banks have upped their resources to interbank financing. This enables them to continue to finance economic agents despite the central bank's restrictive monetary policies. The intensification of the liquidity absorption operations aims primarily to reduce the liquidity available in the interbank market, with Abbas Toli Muhammad explaining that 20% of the overall inflation is from monetary origin. It becomes clear why the forecasted inflation is still way above the 3% community threshold, despite restrictive monetary policies being applied by the central bank for months now. Those measures do not influence the remaining 80% inflation, which is not of monetary origin, but rather imported due to the sluggish international market.
And now on to these human interest story. Investigations have been opened in Bankomo in the central region of Cameroon after a 79-year-old man whose name we got as Anthony is accused of shooting his wife to death. Reports say the old man was suspecting his wife of infidelity. Smart Njikan Gabriel comes back to this human interest story in Bankomo.
Elements of the Territorial Gendarmerie Brigade in Bankomo, Central Region of Cameroon, are now in the keeping of Onana Antoine Depardieu, the 79-year-old man who killed his wife, Andula Katurine, who was in her late 40s. According to the grandson of the suspected murderer, the incident happened so fast that they didn't know. It was about 9 a.m. that we heard Grandpa and Grandma quarreling. Suddenly we heard a gunshot. That is when we moved closer and we met him that he has already killed her. In this state, the younger ones in the house were in total fear. When we attempted moving closer to him, he threatened shooting us. Then, after he must have moved closer to the road, he said, "My mission is accomplished and anyone who stands on my way will fall." Immediately the act must have been committed, and Tony, as he was fondly called, will disappear into thin air before he will be later picked up by the elements of the gendarmerie. He had taken refuge at an uncompleted story building where he called one of our cousins to come and help him escape. That our cousin said he will help him only on the condition that he gives him the gun. As he gave his gun, the cousin called security officers who had blocked all corners. According to Onana Antoine Depardieu, he murdered the woman who has given him 2 kids because she has been cheating on him with one of his tenants, while another anonymous source told us that the murderer is a well-known pedophile within Olik Onambani neighborhood and had been having sexual affairs with one of the daughters of the wife.
Sad indeed. And now, plastic surgery we told you in the headlines, which is the adjustment of parts of the body to fit particular shapes or sizes, is gradually gaining grounds in Cameroon. The most common of them is the Brazilian boot lift, most often demanded by women in the Western world, but now common in Cameroon. Medical doctors say the practice, though might be satisfying somehow physically, comes with very dangerous or devastating side effects, especially when the surgery isn't done by top plastic surgeons. Let's now have more with Mala Glory.
Priscille is just one out of the many young girls who lost their lives in the course of a plastic surgery. Their reasons to look more beautiful and attractive. Around the world, some cosmetic doctors and plastic surgeons report a high demand from patients who feel some imperfections on their bodies.
C'est une chirurgie de remodelage de l'apparence.
It is a kind of surgery that modifies your physical appearance. That is, if you feel uncomfortable with any part of your body, you can modify it, such as increasing your breast.
Voilà, ça c'est la chirurgie plastique.
Aside the huge sums of money needed to carry out the plastic surgery, the risks are enormous. But then, some patients still go for it, worse still with unskilled persons.
Dans la médecine en général,
when untrained persons start practicing the profession, most cases have a sad end. Same with surgery.
ça conduira toujours à le désastre. Deuxième point.
In most cases, the physical appearance of the patients becomes their major preoccupations over their health and well-being.
Elle a un volet réparateur et constructeur, c'est-à-dire que
plastic surgery has 2 phases: to repair and to build. For example, with an open wound and not healing, that is when the surgeon comes in.
Le projet, c'est toujours de la chirurgie plastique réparatrice et reconstructrice.
Cosmetic doctors reveal that some illegal injections and operations are irreversible. Meantime, medics warn against plastic surgery following its huge consequences, while psychologists on their part are encouraging self-acceptance.
And now we take you out of our national frontiers first to Zimbabwe, where the presidential election is taking place amidst tension with the opposition leader already decrying certain irregularities. And in Senegal, over 140 personalities have signed a petition for the release of the main opposition leader, Ousmane Sonko. We will also be giving you updates of the BRICS summit taking place in Johannesburg, South Africa, in our foreign page roundup with Cedric Chakutio.
It's all system go as Zimbabwean citizens head to the polls to cast their votes and elect new presidential and parliamentary leaders. This will be the country's second general election since the late former president Robert Mugabe was ousted in a coup by his vice president and current president Emmerson Mnangagwa. These elections are seen as a two-horse race between President Mnangagwa of the ZANU-PF party and Nelson Chamisa of the Triple C party. The country has also been marked by alleged election process, irregularities and political instability, including the disqualification of some candidates. By 7 p.m., Zimbabwe shall know his new president. Again in Senegal, 142 personalities signed a platform to demand the release of the opponent, Ousmane Sonko. Faced with the risk of chaos and implosion of the country, these Senegalese and African personalities demanded his release. In a petition, the former Minister of Justice and Mediation of the Republic, Serge Diop, Senegalese, international lawyers and politicians also demanded the cancellation of the discounted of his party. It should be noted that Ousmane Sonko is sentenced to 2 years for youth corruption. And in South Africa, the annual summit of the BRICS opened yesterday in Johannesburg. This opening was greatly marked by Vladimir Putin's message by video about Russia's position a little over a month after Moscow's withdrawal from the agreement on the export of Ukrainian cereals. The main thing for him was to recall that Russia remained a full member of the organization and to emphasize again and again its position on the sanctions following its offensive in Ukraine. To him, they are illegal and have serious consequences for the world economy.
And still out of Cameroon, we now analyze the wave of coup d'etat in West Africa and why ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, has been unable yet to bring the situation under control, especially the case of Niger. Babila Jonathan talked to some specialists and compiled this report for the news.
Bola Tinubu, who is at the helm of the regional superpower Nigeria and the West Africa regional bloc ECOWAS, regards the coup in Niger Republic as a litmus test for democracy in the sub-region. Analysts say the coups in Niger, Burkina Faso and Mali depict democratic decline in Africa.
The collapse of democracy is based on greed, both from some of our leaders and the Western powers. But I do insist that it is because of the lack of good governance in both sides of the divide.
Lack of transparency, accountability, inclusiveness, effectiveness and efficiency in the management of resources, and inadequate application of the rule of law are some of the manifestations of bad governance. What is qualified as institutional coups is also highlighted as an enabling factor provoking military takeovers in West Africa.
When the will of the people is subverted, that's also a form of coup. A situation where, you see the leaders, wanting to stay put. Like Mo Ibrahim once said, that you go to other continents, you see young, vibrant leaders. But in Africa, you see a leader who is 80-something, also seeking eternal elongation. Where is he taking his country to? He wants to take it to the grave. So this, and then this also, the fallout of this is the insecurity, the incessant of an overwhelming insecurity that you're seeing in the region.
To political scientist Professor Willibrod Zengwa, leaders of continental and sub-regional organizations like the African Union and ECOWAS are unable to properly handle the political and security upheavals because they are guilty of illegal, unorthodox and undemocratic practices.
Some of the leaders who are insisting on restoring constitutional norms have themselves violated the constitutions of their country by extending their mandates.
African Union and ECOWAS leaders have been urged to start by condemning undemocratic practices by some African leaders, prioritize negotiation, and avoid the use of force that could have far-reaching devastating consequences on the continent and its people.
And that report by Babila Jonathan brings us to the end of the news. Viewers, thank you for always being faithful. But don't go away. Our programs continue on Equinoxe Television. The news in the French language is at 8 p.m. and Equinoxe Soir, live from Yaoundé, that would be at 7 p.m. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television. See you all tomorrow. God willing. Bye-bye for now.